Do you think that it's your gear that is holding you back? Do you think that the gear you have is an obstacle so you cannot photograph everything that you wanted to photograph? Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgård, an Olympus visionary from Helsinki, Finland. And before we start, please consider to subscribe to my channel. My channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer. And also hit that bell so you get notified when there is a new video online. I post videos every Tuesday and every Friday. I've talked a lot about gear in this channel lately, and I will continue to do that because there seems to be a demand for tutorials about Olympus cameras, their features, different things and different lenses, etc, etc. So don't worry, even though today I'm talking about a little bit about another thing. It's about gear acquisition syndrome, what it's called, and also how much does it affect your photography. Is your gear holding you back, or do you think so? Please tell me in the comments down below. Camera companies are always innovating new things, and of course that's how they survive. They have to do that. And some of those features are good, some are not so good, or useful. Maybe useful is a better word than good. They also introduce new cameras almost every year, new lenses every year. I always say that a new camera or a new lens or any new gear can boost up your photography and your hobby for a while. But I don't think that it will continue for a long time. You need to have the passion and the passion to learn photography if you want to get better. A new camera or a new lens won't do that. What has made you a better photographer? A new lens, a new camera, or the passion you have for photography? Please let me know in the comments down below. And also remember that the camera that you already have does not get any worse when there is new cameras introduced. You can still make the great images that you have so far. So don't worry, your camera is not getting any worse when camera companies are introducing new cameras. There were two things that actually made me think about the gear. One was a video by Matti Sulanto, and another thing was a conversation in a Facebook group about photographing ice hockey. But let's start with Matti's video first. Matti is a friend of mine, a photographer and a YouTuber. He has some great content about photography in his channel. I put a link to his channel in the description of this video. Matti talked about used gear, old gear in his video, and what made me think is that he had some really stunning images on this video, and that the images were made with old gear. Of course, at the time when he was making the images 10 years ago, the gear was new. So, but if you still had the same gear that Matti had 10 years ago, you could still make those same images if you could. If you are a good photographer, you can do it. It doesn't matter which camera you have. And the second thing that triggered me to make this video was the conversation about ice hockey photography in a Facebook group where people were talking about photography. There was one guy who said that he cannot make images of ice hockey because he does not have a long telephoto lens. And yes, sport photographers usually have a long telephoto lens. That's because they have a demand from the client. It's the clients that are demanding certain kinds of images. But as a hobbyist, you don't have these restrictions. You only have your own imagination. You don't have actually any restrictions. But the restrictions comes from the idea that you need to make exactly the same kind of images that pros do. Let's say there is a photograph of a player. A portrait of a player while playing ice hockey. It's not a technical portrait, but it's anyway a single picture of a single player. That's usually what the papers might demand. They might make a story of a player, and so they need a picture of that player. But you don't need that as a hobbyist, not necessarily. You can start thinking differently. I asked the guy what kind of equipment he does have, and he told that he has a 85mm and then a very fast wide-angle lens. And I asked the guy, why not take the images with the fast wide-angle lens? And what he replied to me was that, no, maybe the referee could do that. And I was like, what? Why not? You just go next to the plexiglass, stick the camera into the plexiglass and wait something to happen in the corner. You could probably make some stunning images and totally different images that you usually have when talking about ice hockey with long telephoto lenses. This was another example of a restricted thinking, that you think that the image should be exactly like the image that you have seen. And as a hobbyist, as I said earlier, you do not have these restrictions. You only have the restrictions in your head. Nobody's telling you what kind of images you are making. And I think that's very sad that people are restricting themselves with what other people do. Try to do something that you like to do your own way, and don't listen to people when they say that you don't have this gear, you can't photograph this and that because you don't have the gear. Don't listen to them, prove them wrong. And what I'm trying to say here is actually the thing that it's very sad if the first thing that comes to your mind is the lack of gear, that you cannot make images of this and that because of lack of the right gear. I think that's a wrong way of thinking. Have you ever thought out of the box and made images which are not so conventional? Had a long telephoto lens in a landscape, or made a portrait with a very, very wide angle lens or something like that? Please tell me in the comments down below. How have you thought out of the box? We often forget that the most important thing in photography is the mind behind the camera. Yes, that's you, the photographer. Great images comes from seeing and thinking. The gear is only there to help you to make the better image. There's a quote by photographer Peter Adams, and I quote, "Photography is not about cameras, gadgets and gizmos. Photography is about photographers. A camera didn't make a great picture any more than a typewriter wrote a great novel." I'm not saying that you should never buy new gear. Of course there are situations that a new camera, a new lens or some other gadget might get you a better image. A process of better image does not start with buying new gear. It starts in your head. You start thinking about better images. You start making the better images with the gear you already have. Then the new gear might give you that extra to make that image even greater. But remember, it always starts in your head and making those images before buying the new gear. Let's say that you like to make some portraits. The process of making portraits does not start that you walk into a camera store and buy a better lens for portrait photography. It starts from you taking those portraits with the gear you already have. And most of us, when we buy a camera, we have the the kit lens. Start with that. Start clicking with the people. Start making great images, because remember, portraits is not about the lens, about the camera. It's about the person in front of the camera and about the person behind the camera. Start clicking with the person that you're photographing. That's a better start. Then when you master that, which can take a whole lifetime actually, but if you think you can master the connection between you and the model, then go and buy a better lens or a better camera. Then that will game up your portraits and make them even better. And there is also another great quote from Peter Adams, and I quote again. "Great photography is about depth of feeling, not depth of field." What I'm trying to say here is that it's better to have an urge to make portraits before you start buying new lens. As I already said, go and make those portraits and then think if you need a new lens, or can you do them with the gear you already have. And there is a third quote by a photographer, Alfred Eisenstadt, and I quote, "It's more important to click with the people than to click the shutter." And to conclude my thoughts, number one thing is try to overcome the lack of right gear by thinking out of the box. Think what you can do with the gear you already have. And number two is learn your gear. Watch some tutorials, watch YouTube videos, read online blogs, read books, look at a lot of photographs. And of course the third one, go out and make some images. Don't let the gear that you have hold you back, and do not let other people tell you that you cannot do something because of lack of right gear. That's not true. Try to overcome them. That's the way to get a better photographer. Go out and make images and prove them wrong. Yes, prove them wrong, because they are. What are your thoughts? What have made you a better photographer? Is it the gear, or is it the urge? Is it the urge to learn, urge to make images? Please tell me in the comments down below. And hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.